This is JMD Mateus, and you're listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 236, and you are with your High Priest Conchu Ray. Hello, everybody. And if you look into the air, into the sky, it is a waxing gibbous, and so that means Conchu decrees we do an other side of the moon. In other words, we're doing a comic with Moon Knight in it, and not necessarily his title series. And joining me for this adventure is returning co-host Justin the Owl Osgood. Justin, welcome back.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for having me, and thank you as always, loonies, for listening.
Awesome to have you back, Justin, as well. And I just want to start off the show, as I usually do, with a big thank you, of course, to the patroonies such as yourself, Justin, those listed as co-producers and executive producers on each of the episodes. A big thank you to Daniel, Drew, Justin, Derek, Kyle, Wayne, Jordan, Josh, James, Anthony, and Michael. You can also see them not only in each of the episodes, but the Patreon temple on the ITK Moon Knight website. Also, sponsors, have to give a shout out to these great patroonies. Tombs on SoundCloud, and Drew also does Lurk Music on Bandcamp. So Drew produces some dance music, and you can hear that on SoundCloud under the moniker Tombs with a Z. And he also creates some horror and sci-fi inspired soundscapes on Lurk Music, that's with a CK, on Bandcamp. As always as well, Fringe Night by Daniel, doing an original indie comic based on Erie, Pennsylvania's very own superhero, and Dreamland Comics from Illinois, the Superhero Superstore. So some fine stuff there. Justin, do you think you'll be dabbling in a bit of Drew's music? It sounds interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. That definitely sounds like something I'd be interested in. So I'm going to take a look on SoundCloud and Bandcamp later on.
What was that German band that you were surprised were in the comics? One of your favourites?
Belgium. Oh, Front 242 was they had an ad in an issue of The Spectre back in the 90s that I was so chuffed about,
That was that dance music? I can't remember. Is it electronic?
They're kind of more they're electronic, They kind of got lumped in with the industrial subgenre for a while, but
nice.
They've kind of done a little bit of everything electronic,
Do you like do you like KMFDM? Or
they've actually done a lot of festivals and tours with Front 242.
Oh, okay, cool.
I used to love KMFDM. Definitely.
Yeah, I just remember it. The only reason I got into them was there was an awesome scene from Street Fighter, the animated movie.
Yes, I remember.
It was so Chun-Li versus Vega, and
yes, it was fantastic.
That was fantastic. I was pumping. It was an absolute. I can't remember the rest of the movie, but that scene where she fights Vega, brilliant. Anyway,
I think that was one of the best. I love that.
Anyway, loonies, we are here, unfortunately, not to talk Street Fighter. We're here to talk about Moon Knight, the other side of the moon. So Justin and I will be looking at Marvel Fanfare Volume 1, Issue 38. Justin, what is this subtitled?
It's called Whatever Happened to Podunk Slam?
Hell yeah. I love this name, Podunk Slam. It's crazy.
I do too, It is. It really is. We're in for some more Moon Knight weirdness, loonies.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get into it. We'll see what the hell is going on. Now, for listeners that aren't familiar or have just joined listening to the podcast, what Justin and I will do, we'll go through the credits. We'll give credit where credit is due to all the creators, where it's available as well. Then we'll go to a bare bones, which is a synopsis, a summary, just in case you haven't got the comic and you still want to follow on this episode, you can hear what this story is about. And so we'll do that, and that will be followed by some aspects. So Justin and I will then kind of dive deeper into the story, start to bring out stuff that we liked, stuff that we didn't like, stuff that we didn't mind, that sort of stuff. Stuff everywhere. And we'll finish it off with a moon rating system. Now, we do have two systems here, and I always ask the co-host, Justin, you got first dibs. Would you like the vanilla rating or Connor Shoe's rating system for tonight?
Well, I usually pick Connor Shoe's rating, and I don't want to get too predictable. So I think for tonight, I'm going to pick the vanilla one just to switch it up a little bit. Excellent.
So we score these out of 10, out of various things, the vanilla rating being the moons, and Connor Shoe's, well, you'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, I mean, but starting off, actually, I should say the credit. So, released June 1988, writer Joe Duffy, penciler Judith Hunt, inker Bill Sienkiewicz, colorist Eric Lee, letterer Jim Novak, and editor Al Milgrom. Now, this is available, unfortunately, only in floppy. I had to check. It's not on Comixology yet, and it's not on Marvel Unlimited. And, Justin, as you mentioned, it's not in any collected edition.
Yeah, I was really surprised about that there was no collection of any of the Marvel fanfare stuff available, but there isn't.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a hole there. They need to kind of fill that gap. We do see, I mean, I've said many times before, like I love collecting the Epic collections, and they have started the Marvel 2-in-1s. There's one volume at least with the Thing versus, whoever. But yeah, Marvel Comics Presents and Marvel Fanfare seem to have fallen on the wayside, so hopefully they fix that up soon, hopefully at least on Marvel Unlimited.
I hope so, yeah. I think, actually, though, that this story and the other two Marvel fanfares in which Moon Knight did appear, unless I'm mistaken, I think that they're all going to appear in one of the future omnibus that was announced for next year.
Yes. Oh, very... Yes, I think you're right. I'll have to double-check what I said in the previous episodes. We did have some information. It was confirmed. Yeah, I think you're right. It might well be the Omnibus Volume 2, which will cover, I think, the rest of the Mensch run, Fist of Khonshu, and it may indeed have some of these tales in there. So we're getting there, and hopefully this TV show is pushing everything along, Justin. So hopefully we'll get more and more.
Yeah.
Now, Justin, because you have the dulcet tones, I was wondering, I haven't asked you off air, but would you be so kind to read out my hackneyed job of a synopsis here? So
absolutely, yeah. No, it's a great synopsis. I'd be happy to read it.
Okay, excellent.
So. At the Danielle Clark Home for Lost and Friendless Girls, a mysterious intruder enters the dorm, leaving all the girls scared and running for cover. Meanwhile, Mark and his art dealer Spence ruminate over a mysterious artifact named the High Priest's Death Mask of Kuala Moonba. Mark agrees to loan it to the Natural History Museum before his calling for philanthropic work beckons with Frenchie at the door. Coincidentally, it's to take the girls of the Danielle Clark Home to a PODUNK slam concert, an abrasive and corporate boy band that gains mainstream appeal. Mark later receives visions from his own High Priests of Khonshu, warning of PODUNK slam, but he can't make out why. Deciding to spy on the band, Moon Knight reveals a potential conspiracy before being discovered and swings away, escaping the shots of PODUNK Slam's bodyguards. Moon Knight later visits the band in their dressing room, and after piecing together the puzzle, warns them of the curse that the relic has bestowed on them. PODUNK Slam's manager, Appletree, intervenes and attacks Moon Knight. Calling on the crazed fans to do his work, Appletree incites a frenzy, and the crazed fans burst into the dressing room, attacking Moon Knight. It's later revealed the Death Mask of Kuala Moonba has cast a curse on PODUNK Slam. They can retain their youth at the expense of their fans. Appletree had cut the deal for the band, ensuring their success, but at the expense of many a girl's youth. Moon Knight shatters the relic, and Podunk Slim return to their older, aged selves, much to the disgust of their fans.
Yes, so that was a Marvel Fanfare, Volume 138. Thank you, Justin. Yes, doing justice there to the synopsis. First off, before I forget, I always forget to say this, overall impressions. What did you make of this, I guess, odd tale?
It's so odd, but it's so Moon Knight in its weirdness, and that's one of the reasons I love it, is that it's kind of another bizarre tale for Moon Knight, one of many weird ones in his long canon. The thing that makes me laugh is the home for Lost and Friendless Girls.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean,
friendless girls, that's harsh.
I know. It's as if they're not down enough already. It's like, welcome to the home of Lost and Friendless Girls. That's you.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that is so harsh. But
yeah. I
overall, I really liked this issue. I love Jo Duffy's writing. She's a great writer, and I loved her work, especially in Catwoman. In that 90s series, when Catwoman started, she was the writer when that started, and I love that.
Okay.
Jo Duffy is a great writer, and she also co-wrote Fist of Khonshu #5 a few years prior to this. So she did have a little bit of prior.
So she's got a bit of So she's not new to Moon Knight here. I know her name from some classic, I think, Iron Fist issues. Yeah. So, but I haven't paid too much attention to what she's done. But she's done. Yeah, I think overall, this issue was very fun. It kind of ticked the boxes, as you said, of Moon Knight themes and giving that kind of vibe. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? It's not. Like, it's a bit mystical to do with relics, of course, and especially in this era. This is 88, so we're talking about the Fist of Khonshu kind of era. This is the different iteration of Moon Knight, where he's very much artifact based. So I think it's very apt to have it. But yeah, it was a fun tale. First points, if we can dive deeper into this, I guess you did mention the home of Lost and Friendless Girls. I just wanted to point out Danielle Clark. I wonder if that's a reference to anything, or could be just a friend. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't think about that. Danielle Clark, yeah.
Might be like Joe's friend Danielle said, look, put me in a comic. Oh, okay, I'll name you this.
Or maybe it was somebody she didn't like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah. But actually, before we start, I want to talk about the cover. I rarely do this, but I do love to at least acknowledge the cover. What did you make of this, Justin? I think it's very evocative of, I don't know, it just really draws you in.
It really does, yeah. And I remember the first Moon Knight Marvel Fanfare, I think was number 30, with that gorgeous painted cover.
Oh,
and that was so striking. And then this is striking, but in a different way. There's a lot more use of shadow here. It's a lot darker.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see the influence of Bill Sienkiewicz here, which is lovely. I think this is the first time he returned to do anything with Moon Knight after the series, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it? I mean, he's always kind of, I guess he's been around a little. He's done the covers and he's helped out. I know he later on did a bit later. This is 87, 88. They started doing some stuff for Spider-Man during the Clone Saga. New Mutants, of course, that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's really good. I really like the cover. It's very unusual. It's kind of like an aqua. I don't know what is this. Like a blue-green cover. And the thing I love about aquamarine, yeah. And the thing I love about Marvel Fanfare is that it's not kind of beholden to like a core character. You know what I mean? Like as in Marvel 2-in-1, the Thing's going to be there. Or Marvel Team Up, Spider-Man's here. Marvel Fanfare, it can flit about. So you get actually Moon Knight's face in that little icon in the top left, and so you kind of reassured that this is a Moon Knight book essentially.
A spotlight. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge spotlight on it, on Moon Knight. And this is great. I mean, so the front cover has what is the death mask of Koala Munba, and it's got some kind of spiritual, spectral arms grasping and strangling Moon Knight, who, incidentally, Justin, I guess I'll jump straight into artwork. What I found really interesting, I love the art, and Bill Sienkiewicz inks it, but what was your take on the face, I guess, of Moon Knight? Because it's actually seen very clearly here on the cover, and his face is really kind of clearly seen throughout.
Yeah, throughout the issue, when he has his mask on. And this is the first time that I wasn't familiar with Judith Hunt's artwork before I read this.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. I wonder, because the Fist of Khonshu series, there were some issues where you did see more of his face against the mask. There were a lot more of that style of drawing his face. So I think Judith probably took inspiration from that, since that was at the time, the most recent visual version of the character.
Yes.
I really like it. I think for this story, it works really well. I really like it. It's great, and the inks are fantastic.
It actually gives a bit more of a Spectre feel to me, because she really does. Judith Hunt goes a step further. You're talking about the Fist of Khonshu. You can actually see Mark Spector's teeth, his lips, and his mouth on the mask. I mean, that's really hugging his face closely if it's like that.
Yeah,
his nose. Yeah, his nose isn't even squashed. It's almost as if he's got this second skin, like this white skin over his face. So it's a very different look for Moon Knight. But I mean, I like it. I like it as well. It's something different. We don't see it that often. But it really does, I guess, differentiate this issue from, other versions of Moon Knight. And we've seen plenty of different versions of the costume. So, that was a nice defining difference.
It was nice to see the three high priests of Khonshu as well in this.
Yeah.
They made a brief return in the scene on page 8 where he's having a vision of all the stuff that's happening, and it was cool to see them again. We didn't see those high priests very much. We only saw them for a few issues, and then they were gone. So
yes,
I was like, whenever they pop up.
So very much a reference, if we're going to just flag references to the Fist of Khonshu, as we've mentioned before. So no surprises there that Joe Duffy had a bit of a hand in the Fist of Khonshu issue 5, as you mentioned. So she's drawing from that. But they were good to see as well. I like it because what they do, in this particular story at least, is that they, for Mark at least, because we probably know a bit more, it's a bit of a mystery. He gets his visions, and they're kind of very random. So he starts having these visions of like older people just wandering around, the city's derelicts. He sees his visions that they're growing in number, and then he has his vision of Podunk Slam, who, Justin, I don't know what they look. There's a bit of Beatles in there. There's a bit of Buddy Holly. I don't know what to make of them.
Kind of like Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons, that type of thing. Like Frankie Valli from Hell, that type of But and this was at that time, in I think '88, when that whole boy band mania was coming back. Like you had New Kids on the Block had just started, or something like that. Yeah, I think so. Gosh, this was very, I think, timely for that. For that year.
It's so funny though, because I remember New Kids on the Block, of course, but I never really, paid any notice or put together how corporate some of these bands were. It was, for me, it was like the Spice Girls was like the real kind of discovery of, okay, these businesses are just bringing these people together. So I found it quite interesting. Like that back in here, like 87, 88, it's really on the nose. Like Joe Duffy really spells out to us. I mean, she even says, where is it? If I go, there's that first description of the boy band 5 boys who combine a staggering lack of talent as singers, dancers, or actors when decked out in the requisite androgynous costumes, flashing boyish smiles and bursting with energy, can capture feminine hearts and pull in huge sums of money. So it's really, I don't know whether it's it must be a commentary on it, but it's also a little bit of a this is, look what it's doing to music, I guess. I don't know. That's what I got. I'm not sure if you thought that.
Yeah, I definitely got that theme, that they were kind of showing that side of it that probably hadn't been talked about much. That's that very kind of image-centric, which is the really ironic part about this, was that everyone was so hot for Podunk Slam until they found out they were old men.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, as soon as the curse was the spell was lifted and they realized they were old, they're like, oh my God, gross. So yeah. It's also kind of a commentary on the obsession with youth and how almost people will do anything to retain their youth, the cost of other people as well.
Yeah, most definitely. It's that kind of eternal story of searching to stay young and to probably for these guys, I'm not sure. It's never really delved into whether to recapture that flame that they had when they were young. I'm not sure if they were musicians before. It's never really spelled out. As Joe Duffy says, they're terrible at what they do. So maybe they're just pretty faces. But what I found that funny because with the advent of like the Rolling Stones, like marching on with their tours and older rock stars gaining more and more popularity, I found that funny at the end. It's pretty mean at the end as well. They're going, oh, God, how disgusting. They're so old. And
I know, yeah. They're so harsh to these guys.
It's so fickle, isn't it? I mean, for being such big fans, maybe that's a bit of a commentary on fans as well, like how fickle they can be. Because these guys are the same guys. I mean, they're just a little older. But, of course, that massive deception, that can't sit down well.
Right. Yeah, and the nature of the deception as well, how they were stealing youth from their fans, that's another thing. Yeah.
So, as we kind of alluded in the synopsis, so the beginning opens up with at first I thought it was some sort of zombified person, but it's just an elderly person just wandering into the Danielle Clark Home for Lost and Friendless Girls, and we later find that person is just one of the residents, or just a girl in general, who has unfortunately fallen under the spell of it. Rather evil, isn't it, Justin? Yeah. So we get the manager, Appletree.
Appletree, yeah.
Really being
who's behind the whole thing. Yeah, and he's raking in the cash, you can tell from looking at his purple pinstripe suit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's not like he's not gaining anything from this. Like he pitches it as, guys, we're doing this thing so you can remain young, and you've got lots of money, you've got lots of girls after you, but he's raking in stuff himself. So strangely, he looks a little bit like Doctor Strange,
he does a little bit, yeah.
I did think that with because he dabbles in the magic, right? He somehow, we don't know, but he somehow is caught wind of what the death mask of Kuala Lumpur can do, and he's very much across it, and he does it. It's something quite exciting, I think, to possibly go into. I don't know, would you think there's some room, Justin, for learning more about Kuala Lumpur, or is it pretty much run its course in this issue?
Well, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to revisit it just as a random tangent for maybe some future one-off story. Some other relic of Kuala Lumpur shows up that, oh no, not another one. What is it with this Kuala Lumpur place? Everything that comes from there is cursed. I mean, so again, we kind of just hover around characters. So we got Appletree, who's pretty mean, and he's pretty sleazy too, because he flaunts the contract in front of Podunk Slam, and he says, "We made you stars." It's
Yes.
basically throwing it in their face the whole time about it.
Exactly.
So yeah, he's a typical sleazebag manager. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's done quite well. I mean, he doesn't really need to be fleshed out that much. He does does what's needed for this story. But we got a lot of incidental characters here, Justin. So I wanted to get your thoughts. We see him in the Fist of Khonshu as well. I'm pretty sure in Fist of Khonshu issue 3, because we did an audio reproduction of that. But we see Spence, Mark Spector's art dealer, and I think it was really nice to see him back.
Me too.
A small
I like Spence a lot.
Yeah, me too. He's gotten lost along the way. Like, I think he's been largely forgotten in the Moon Knight stories. But hopefully maybe he gets a revival somehow in the Jed McKay run.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, see him pop up somewhere and hopefully not die.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't like it when writers bring back long lost forgotten characters and just throw them in just to have them get killed just for shock value.
Oh me too.
That's tired. But
one of the things I'm very happy with in this Spider-Woman, just like to go tangentially for a bit. They've brought back Lindsay McCabe, Carla Pacheco, and Lindsay McCabe is from Volume 1. Like, she was the best friend of Jessica Drew, and that's so good. Like, a lot of the fans are like, "Oh, that is what a callback!"
That is cool. That's great.
Yeah, so she's a stunt woman. She's got no powers. She's just a good friend. And yeah, it's nice to have that kind of character to bounce off. I guess Mark's got plenty of that in his kind of ensemble. But, I mean, Spence is great because it gives it gives the art corner of, the aspect or the relic aspect of Moon Knight. And I think he's used really well to introduce that. So in this story, of course, he comes up to Mark and he talks about the Kuala Lumpur death mask. Mark's not too impressed by it, but Spence knows, he knows a lot about it. But he's also thinking about how to, I guess, a vested interest for Mark as well. Yeah,
keeping him safe from the curse, as it were. Yeah.
Yes. And there's also, as well, Justin, I wanted to pick it up. I'm not sure if you had any thoughts. It's not Stephen Grant here. It's Mark Spector. Acting as the millionaire or whatever, or philanthropist, because he visits the home. So I wonder if Joe Duffy was. Do you remember in Fist of Khonshu whether his other identities were?
I feel like throughout the whole Fist of Khonshu run, he was just called Mark the whole time.
Yes,
I don't remember seeing Jake or Stephen at all in those issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion because again, that issue 3, that reference to Spence, I think it was Mark again. He came on a bicycle and he was talking. Yeah, that was Mark. So yeah. So it's interesting in that in this era, those identities similar to the Mark Spector Moon Knight have been kind of, and that is the subsequent run. So it was almost after the end of the Doug Mensch run, those identities were kind of like put on the shelf, which is.
It's strange. I wonder why. I wonder why they decided to do that. What their reasoning was behind that. If they thought that it wasn't interesting enough, or if they thought that people didn't understand it, or I don't know.
Maybe they, because I recall. Apparently, Chuck Dixon for the Mark Spector Moon Knight's editorial just wanted to focus on the mercenary Mark Spector aspect of it. So you get the great arcs of the trial of Mark Spector and Bosco Verde. You get the Blood Brothers, that sort of thing. I feel in Fist of Khonshu there was a heavy leaning, obviously, towards the Egyptology side of things, with the High Priest of Khonshu, the relics. So again, maybe that's why, and they just say, look, let's concentrate on that. Let's not bother about these other identities. Because, I mean, at this stage as well, then it's not really clear whether that is a mental condition or not. It's pretty ambiguous. It's almost as if Mark is putting on the roles, like, you know, he's just an actor, a really good actor. So maybe they thought that was not interesting enough. And we see later on in the early 2000s that the DID, or multiple personalities, come into play.
Yeah, and I always thought that was much more interesting, personally, much more interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what their reasoning was. Maybe they just wanted to kind of simplify the character a little bit for the audiences and make him where they were also revamping his look. Maybe they just kind of wanted a whole fresh start for the character for a while. Yeah,
it's a hard one, isn't it? Because it's around this time, isn't it, Justin, of the West Coast Avengers? So we see him jumping around. So I'm just thinking, if they wanted to have him as part of the team at the West Coast Avengers, they probably wanted to spruce him up a bit more. I'm thinking, and that's why they gave him the bells and whistles. That's why we get the whole kind of scarabs and ancient unks, and the bling. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. It's all speculation from here. But yeah. The other character as well, Justin, I know your favourite and mine, Frenchie. He at least gets a look in here.
Yes, I was happy to see Frenchie again. I don't think that he was in the other Marvel fanfare. I think Marlene was in that. Marlene was in that one, but I don't remember if Frenchie was. So it's great to see him again. Yeah.
Yeah, it is good, and I like it when writers, make an effort. I mean, we see Spence here and we see Frenchie make an effort to at least include a couple of the characters. Because they're so interesting.
And there was that great moment. Sorry, there was that great moment too at the concert, the Podunk Slam concert, where Mark looks over and Frenchie's like, "Oui, bravo, sing Nervous Venus."
That is so funny. Yeah.
Oh, that made me laugh so hard the first time I heard that. I was like, "Oh, that's great."
And there's just a shot of him just sitting slouched. He's in a suit as well, Mark. Just as bored as hell, but surrounded by these girls. I must note as well, I mean, while we were talking about Judith Hunt, I really did love her layouts as well. I thought what she did, she played around with them. They weren't all kind of really static. That instance there where you're talking about with Frenchie, you get a nice establishing shot of Podunk Slam, but then she does these like 4 identical boxes, so you can kind of follow Mark's movement. And then as you mentioned, the High Priest stuff, she kind of mixes it up, and there's like a montage within the panels. So nothing too crazy, but I think pretty sound. I'm trying to have a look here. Like, there aren't any angled panels or anything. So I think it flowed pretty well. But yeah, without being too flashy.
I agree. Yeah, I really like the scene, the battle scene where towards the climax, Moon Knight is fighting with the guards. I really liked all 4 of those panels. I thought that looked really good. She
does use a lot of like full-on square panels, doesn't she?
Yeah. But sometimes you see the action go outside of the panel, like in the first one where Moon Knight punches that guy. You see his hand kind of go out of the panel.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. That's true. And then you get some really nice classic shots of. There's one I really like of Moon Knight swinging away. With the crimson, I guess, night, and there's a full moon in the background. So some really good hero shots as well. But yeah, I mean, overall, I really did like the art. I think it was really good. And you can, as you said, with the cover within the pages as well, you can really see the Sienkiewicz kind of influence with the inkings.
Yeah, but he doesn't, and it shows what a great inker and what a great talent is. He doesn't overpower her pencils at all. He doesn't overtake anything. He just embellishes it, makes it look really good. So yeah, I love it. I love this combination. With his inks and her artwork. It's great.
And of course, as well, with the great paper stock for this. I want to shout out again the Eric Lee colours. They pop out really, really well. And he uses like the pinks and purples. Like I find they really pop out, and he uses them a fair bit. He uses them in like the flashbacks of the fans, adoring fans, Podunk Slam's outfits are all in pink as well. I don't know, it just creates a really nice vibe. And then you have the death mask, which is like red and black and yellow, so that really pops out.
Yeah, I agree. I love the colors in this. The paper stock makes it really vibrant, and yeah, each page looks great. It makes you want to keep turning the pages and see what's next.
Yeah, for sure. And we were talking about, like you were mentioning some of the fight scenes. So we do get some action here, which is great. Of course, as any comic book reader of superheroes at least would be expecting some sort of fights. We get very different enemies here. Justin, we get Appletree, of course, with his thugs. But what I found interesting at the end, as mentioned, Appletree incites like a riot, and Moon Knight is fighting little girls. Who would have thought?
A mob of screaming girls. Use your heels, use your nails, they're screaming.
Well, and to be fair, Moon Knight doesn't. It's not like he is punching and kicking them. He really is in a bit of a position here. He says, what does he say? I can't seriously be expected to defend myself against children, can I? They break down the door and they start getting him. But so that was quite fun as action goes. It's not your typical action.
Definitely. I think that's the first and only time that we'll ever see Moon Knight trampled by a mob of screaming girls.
Yeah. It actually reminded me of, I can't remember where or when, but there was this instance in the Punisher's run where he gets, technically he gets beaten by this little girl. Like he didn't expect it, and like she just punches him like really hard in the, in the regions, and he just falls over and he's laid out. it was pretty funny. It's kind of like, it's similar to this. Like you have a vigilante who's quite menacing, yet kind of can't beat a bunch of screaming fans. I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, that are trying to protect their idols, their teen idols.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah, but I mean, apart from that as well, I mean, working backwards here, he does fight more of the goons, which is fun. As you mentioned, that 4 panels, which is really nice to see him in hand-to-hand action. He looks almost strong there. He's kind of... Oh, that's it as well. He does have his strength, doesn't he?
Because of the phase of the moon. Yeah, he lifts that one guy right up.
Yeah, so we've got to remember that in this iteration of Moon Knight, it's even mentioned as well, I think, by Spence or Frenchie, that he should have his super strength, and Mark as well. He actually picks a night to go out to investigate based on the phase of the moon. So it's a really cool idea. I really do wish that they, in some capacity, bring this power back. I do like him as normal, but as long as he's enhanced, but not Hulk strength. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I agree, and I love the little powers. I mean, it doesn't make him overpowered at all, and it doesn't make him more or less of anything. It just makes him unique, I think. Yeah. Hopefully they'll put a little bit of that here and there. Maybe they'll throw it in as a surprise, just to kind of.
I hope so.
It'll be one of those situations maybe where it looks like he's going to lose, and then all of a sudden it's a full moon, and he's able to do something.
I mean, what surprises me as well, Justin, is going through like some social media like groups and stuff, and people chatting, and even the non-Moon Knight groups and fan bases. I come across a lot of like casual like Moon Knight fans, and a lot of them are of the understanding that he is superpowered. So although this has really influenced. This era has really influenced, I guess, the outlook of Moon Knight, because for me, he's largely just a normal dude, right, with gadgets and stuff. But for a lot of people, they do say, "Oh yeah, isn't he superpowered with the moon or something?" Funnily enough, that's only in the Fist of Khonshu and in this issue, and maybe some other incidental issues as well. But I found that quite interesting that people kind of lean towards that.
Yeah, that is interesting that casual fans are. are looking at that. I wonder if they're getting him mixed up with another character, or if they're reading something else. Because there are some other moon-related characters as well.
That's true. Well, that might be it.
Yeah.
It might be just a generic understanding or thought of, oh yeah, Moon Knight. Oh yeah, he's got to be powered by the moon.
Yeah. Full moon, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would love to see the powers return. Maybe where we're kind of getting more of a kind of a quote unquote supernatural undercurrent in this new series. Maybe that will return
potentially. Yeah, I wouldn't be adverse to it. I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know, Justin. Is there anything else that you want to raise here, in particular, for issue 38?
No, I think we really covered everything. I love the colors, like you said, the use of purple and like kind of the pinks and magentas and some of the vibrant blues. It's really beautiful in this issue, and I hope when it does get reprinted in some form, if it is an omnibus or whatever, that the colors look as good as they do here.
Oh, no, absolutely. They hopefully, because unfortunately Marvel have been guilty of just using really poor paper stock, and you see that with a lot of the old comics. They just fade and they bleed into. I've got where they bleed the inside of the comics bleed onto the cover. Like you see the cover becomes almost transparent. I hate that.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. That's terrible. Luckily, we don't see as much of that anymore, but for a while it was bad. Yeah.
And definitely not in this sort of stock. Again, this is great.
Right.
This issue could last, that I'm holding in my hands, unless I, crush it. It lasts a good other fair few years. It's great. I love it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I guess the final thing I wanted to say was, and this might be due to the format of Marvel Fanfare, but it does end up pretty abrupt. There's a little bit of a acknowledgement from Moon Knight that he'll have to alert Menzies about Appletree inciting a riot. So we don't see Appletree. He doesn't get apprehended or anything like that. The main focus is that Podunk Slam turn back into their kind of older selves. But yeah, we don't get that, and I guess the ending is that the fans are kind of disgusted with it, which is fair enough. I mean, which is a good ending, but I'm just thinking of if you're really to tie up some loose ends, there's a lot here still. There is also. I guess,
would have been nice to see Appletree get rounded up. Yeah,
Appletree rounded up. I do. My fault. I looked at the page just before. We do get to see the kids rejuvenated back to their youthful selves. So that's something, like one panel for that, which is good.
There's some closure at least for their story.
Yeah. And I guess Podunk Slam. I mean, they're still out there. They're just older. There was a little bit of a dynamic as well. Sorry, Justin, if I'm just to go back a little with Podunk Slam. So we see it, and I guess you're always going to have a conscience of like the band, and there are 5 members. I can't remember which one it was. There's one guy, Philip. Maybe it could be. I don't remember all their names.
I think so. Yeah.
Rick, Harry, Gervais, Phil, and Charlie. So one of them has a conscience, going, "Oh gosh, what are we doing? This is really bad." And it seems like the others are pretty much on board with with having the fame and the fortune. But I guess again,
the lifestyle.
Yeah, the lifestyle. But as far as characterizations go, I guess you just need that one to kind of embody something, that they're not all evil themselves, that there's at least a little bit of sympathy towards them.
I liked that. That was nice to see that one voice of reason amongst that group.
So I mean, if there is nothing else to raise, I'm just having a quick look through our prompt sheet. Mainly it is about this chase for eternal youth and doing whatever you can. It's almost as if like the Death Mask is it's like a deal with the devil, right? But
right,
just another riff on that. But Justin, I guess issue 38, Marvel Fanfare. Whatever happened to Podunk Slam? What would you give this from the vanilla? I love the title. What would you give this vanilla rating?
I would give this a 7 out of 10.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So top end of a waning gibbous. Yeah. Look, I would give it, from Conishue's rating, I'd give it almost a solid round boy. I'd give it a 6.5.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I found it enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. I can't fault it, and I wasn't bored. I was entertained. It's a nice little story. It's something that I would read again. But it isn't. It isn't Tolstoy or anything like that. not that comics have to be, but you know what I mean. It's just a fun bit of adventure, and there aren't any like memorable or really striking villains, but there is enough opposition here for Moon Knight, and we do get to see his supporting cast, so it's an enjoyable read. I can't really fault it. But yeah, 7 out of 10. Justin, any thoughts why not give it any higher or lower?
Like you said, the finale was really hastily wrapped up. I felt like if they had added a little bit more to that, I probably would have given it higher marks. And there really wasn't a lot of action in this issue, which, we don't really have to have that in every single Moon Knight appearance. We don't have to see him, in action all the time. But there wasn't really a whole lot here. You see him throw one of his scarab darts at one guy and knock the gun out of his hand, and then there was the one scene where he fights the guards, and then the girls come and trample him, and that was pretty much it. So that was another reason I felt like it could have done with a little bit more in the action department.
Yeah, I totally agree. I did like the angle of this story being around like musicians and the fame. I found that was quite interesting. It's not common that you get a lot of comic book stories based in and around musicians and the music industry. Yeah, so it was something different. Actually, listeners, that was a 7 out of 10 for Justin, 6.5 from me. So it's very similar, averaging at around 7. So it's well worth a read. Justin, before we go any further, I forgot to call out, what did you make of the editorial? It was, I loved it because I mean,
I did too.
Yeah, I mean, so just to paint the picture a little bit for loonies, so what we see as normal now, I think was such a big thing back in the day, Justin. And so we get Joe Duffy and Judith Hunt, so a writer and penciler, both female, which is pretty cool. And I'm glad that they kind of called it out.
Yeah, in this and the other story that's in this issue as well is both that's written by Joe Duffy as well and illustrated by Colleen Doran.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, I love that, and also in this editorial he lists off. He mentions that when he started in comics, the only women artists that were around were Marie Severin and Ramona Fradon. Mm-hmm. Yes. And then he lists all the other female artists and writers in the next panel. But it's kind of funny, in the 30 some odd years since then, there are so many more female writers and artists and inkers and colorists, and it's great. It's nice to see how far we've come since then.
Oh, absolutely. And I've got to call out now, like my favorite writers, I mean, genuinely have to be, at the moment, well, I'll put Jed McKay in there as well because he's done great work on Moon Knight. But current writers, definitely for me, are Kelly Thompson and Carla Pacheco, just smashing it on Spider-Woman. So they certainly have come a long way. And it's really funny, in this little 9-panel editorial, you have Al Milgrom counting off his fingers first, Marie Severin and Ramona Fradon, and then the next panel, because there's so many, he's having to use his toes, so he's counting off his toes as well. So it's a little bit of funny. I like it. It's very kind of tongue-in-cheek, and at the end, the only way to go, I guess, to move forward in the business is he puts a wig on. I don't know what to make of that, but I kind of get what he means.
It was cute. Yeah. I like how he said, "To sheesh, I haven't had this much hair on my head since college." I love that. Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah,
It was really
cool.
cute. Yeah, that made me smile. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That was Al Milgrom.
Al Milgrom. Yeah. So
Yeah.
who was a fantastic artist in his own right as well. But he is the editor for this instance on Marvel Fanfare, and for listeners, so this is like a just on the inside of the cover. It's just a little funny spoof kind of thing of Al Milgrom. Just before we get into, I love that. Like Marvel do that, they did that a lot. Actually, back in the 60s, even they even had Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in the comics, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I loved that. Yeah, it was so cool.
But this is more like, this reminds me more of What the,
definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend people getting these individual issues of Marvel Fanfare, even if they do collect them in some type of format. Because another reason is because I don't think that in any collection they'll probably add any of the pinups or like the posters in the end. And in this issue, we get some great ones. And I think in Marvel Fanfare, that was the standard. There were some full page pinups in the back of each one. They were always so good.
I love the pinups.
Bob Layton did some great ones in the other Moon Knight issue, maybe, or something.
Right.
I can't remember, but I remember some really good Bob Layton ones somewhere.
Yeah.
But I recommend people getting these individual issues because, again, the colors look so good on this paper stock, and they really do read very well. All these issues. Great.
No, absolutely. Those pinups are great, and I guess these days it's taken over a little bit by variant covers, which are great pinups in themselves. But I like that. Yeah, but I just love those random pinups that you get, especially in Marvel Fanfare, that sort of thing. And we will kind of, I guess, talk about each and every one of those pinups, Justin, and the backup story, but listeners, it will not be included in this episode. What Justin and I have decided to do, it's a kind of a first time that we're going to try this. There is actually a backup story in Marvel Fanfare. It's a short story. It's called Duet, and it will be available as a bonus episode for Patreon members. So if you want to listen to Justin and I's thoughts on the rest of this Marvel Fanfare issue, please go over to Patreon and consider, joining. And there's some bonus episodes there for you. So So Justin, let's take a quick break before we come back to, and we'll just wrap up the rest of this episode.
Sounds good.
Are you a fan of comic books? Are you a fan of comic book villains? Well, join me, Russell, as we take a walk on the dark side with Tomes of Evil, the podcast dedicated to discussing, analyzing, and overall glorifying the villains of Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and all your favorite indie books.
Tomes of Evil, a comic book villain podcast.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night of the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 236, and on the other side of that break, you heard Justin and I's discussions on Marvel Fanfare 38, Justin, which was a hoot, so to speak. Justin the Owl.
It was a hoot. It was quite a hoot.
That's good. So, plenty of stuff there. Well worth checking out for sure. No feedback for this instance. We are, truth be told, recording a little ahead of time, so I will still be putting up a discussion thread on this issue. So feel free, please, to just drop your thoughts in on it, and we can always read it out in later episodes. But interesting to see what everyone else thought of that issue, Justin, because it was a quirky one, and it was of that kind of Fist of Khonshu era, so depending on if people like that era or not, whether they might like this one.
Yeah, I think that era is kind of polarizing amongst Moon Knight fans for understandable reasons, so I'd love to hear what people think about this.
Yeah. I know, and I've kind of said it before, like, I'm really a convert. I'll go on to say on record, Fist of Khonshu for me probably was my least favourite run earlier on, but I've really warmed to it, and so I'm really enjoying it now, doing a reread of it and reading stories like this, which is very kind of arm in arm with Fist of Khonshu. It's just really fun. I mean, maybe it's because I am reading more West Coast Avengers as well, which is kind of the same thing. But yeah, right. I know that you've always liked it, Justin.
Oh, definitely. I like the dark edge of Moon Knight a lot, but I also like the lighter stories too, to balance that out from time to time. And it was nice to see that in this story, a little bit of a lighter touch to balance out some of the other darker stuff. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as mentioned, Loonies on any of our many platforms, on Facebook, in our group, Twitter, YouTube. We do get some awesome feedback time to time from CMK7, beep boop, beep boop, boop. Instagram. We've got the website. Just drop us a line. We really do enjoy it. Justin, this pretty much wraps up our episode this time. Just wanted to ask, spectacle-wise, where can other Loonies hear you if they want to?
Well, I've actually by the time this episode comes out, actually, people might have heard me on Tomes of Evil, the supervillain podcast, comic book supervillain podcast, which I'm co-hosting with Russell. And by the time this episode comes out, I think there will be 5 or 6 episodes that people can listen to. Yeah.
And I know that Russell had reformatted the show somewhat. So, I mean, by this time, you probably would have, if you checked out Terms of Evil, and again, we'll put the links in the show notes, you'll probably see how so. Originally, it was more looking at a villain of the week, so to speak. But now it's branched off beyond that. But it sounds like a lot of fun, Justin, and I know we've got something coming up. Well, I've been invited on. I can't wait to chat with you and Russell next month, I believe.
We're going to have a great time. Yeah, we're talking about a great villain.
Okay, well, actually, I was about to say, don't want to spoil anything, but I did see Russell has posted that all around. I wanted to actually say Justin as well, because listeners, Justin, just off topic totally, Justin has found all your old copies of the Marvel of the Universe mini comics. How cool is that?
It came with all the action figures. Yes, I was so excited to find those, and I knew that I had to send you the picture right away.
You sent us a picture that, and literally that emoticon I sent of blowing. You blew my mind with that. It's like, I can't believe how well they're all kept and stuff. Like, you did brilliantly. So,
thank you. Yeah, I purposefully kept them in good shape because I love them so much. It was one of those rare cases where they actually survived 40 years.
Yeah, that is crazy. Have you kind of reopened them? Do you know, are they sequential or are they just all one shots? I can't remember.
They're pretty much all one shots. Yeah, the comics that sometimes they focused on the character who the comic came with.
Right. Yes.
Like Many Faces or something
Stinkor.
like that. Stinkor.
Deary me.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Anyway, listeners, a bit of a fan of Marvel the Universe, so understandably, when Justin showed Russell and I your photos of the mini comics, it was just it's amazing. So
I'm glad you like those. Yeah.
So I mean, drawing from that, Justin, I'm sure come our episode with Russell on his show with all about Skeletor. That will be cool.
That will be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about him. Yeah.
Next phase, Loonies. Now, just another reminder, what I mentioned, Justin and I are actually going to review the rest of this Marvel Fanfare issue 38. It's not Moon Knight related. It's all to do with Dazzler and Rogue, but you can find that episode as a bonus episode on our Patreon page. So please consider checking out our page on patreon.com/ITK Moon Knight. There are other incentives there as well. You can get raw, uncut audio footage, I don't know what you call them, audio files of the shows. There's scripts there. There are, ITK serial files, all that sort of stuff. Go check it out if you can. Next phase, though, episode 237, we're going to return to our idle chat at the top of the week, and we'll be inviting fellow High Priestess Conchu Rebecca back, and it will be part 2 of our insight, exploration of understanding DID. So that will be coupled with Lena, an ITK loony. Her thoughts on it. Lena has DID as part of the system. Has been very generous in sharing information and own experiences there. So that will be something definitely I'll be looking forward to. But yeah, Justin,
me too.
Yeah, it's a really good eye. I mean, it really does dispel some myths that we may have thought, previously about DID. So definitely go check it out. Also, as well, just a recap, sponsored again by Fringe Night. So if you can support Fringe Night by Daniel doing his Patreon page on patreon.com/fringenight27. Sorry, Russell, I just had to wait for that ambulance to go. There was just one, yeah. I'll cut this out. Also, as well, a big sponsor and a big shout out to Tombs by Drew Tombs. So you can support Tombs with a Z on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/tombs with a Z. Or you could check out Drew's music as Lurk Music with a CK on Bandcamp at lurkmusic.bandcamp.com. Sorry, so all of these are in the show notes as well. And finally, Dreamland Comics. If you use the code MOON, you'll get a promo. What am I doing? I'm reading this off the... Dreamland Comics, if you use the code MOON, you'll get 20% off their back issues. So go check out them from Illinois. Some great people there. Finally, we're part of the collective, so a group of all these other podcasts. Fantastic stuff like Tomes of Evil with Justin on there and Russell, a super villain podcast, but also a shout out to the likes of Dread or Dead based on Judge Dredd, and the Fantasy Comic League podcast hosted by Brian and Sean, all to do with the Fantasy Comic League, which is fantastic. We've been part of in the past and would love to do it again. Finally, you can contact us on an email, feedback at itkmoonnight.com. We've got a website as well, itkmoonnight.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, Get Vocal, and Podchaser as well. And incidentally, if you want to leave a review, please do. 5 stars, I'd absolutely love it. And Khonshu will shower you with gifts. And that just helps us get out there a bit further. To reach other loonies who may want to listen to people talk about Moon Knight. So there you go. A huge thank you, Justin. Thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me back. Yeah, it was fun to revisit this issue. It had been a few years since I read this one. It was fun to read it again.
Yeah, me too. It's been ages, but it was a heap of fun. And with my renewed love of Fist of Khonshu, I think it was extra special.
Nice. Good, yeah.
Well, with that, loonies, as always, may Conchu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Take care, everyone.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.